like I've noticed this with artists that aren't afraid to wear their influences on their sleeve, and when they do that in an earnest way, it just creates something completely new, which you wouldn't think that's what happens, right? You know, you would think it'd be like a carbon copy of something else, but instead it becomes this interesting like amalgamation of something just completely new. And I feel like I get that when I listen to you all. I mentioned it to you earlier. My brain has a hard time because you'll go from being like kind of hardcore punk, and then all of a sudden the synths kick in, and it's like it gets ethereal, and this whole other atmosphere is like layered on top of things, and the drums will go from like being just pulsing to all of a sudden kind of dropping out and letting things breathe a bit and stuff. So I like what I like what you all are doing with whatever genre I guess you guys are comfortable with. So,
dude, thank you so much, man. That really does mean a lot. I mean, for me, like I set out to, it was a handful of years ago now in Philadelphia, and I wanted to do like lean into a lot of my goth influences, and I in my mind I wanted to do something that combined that sort of aggression of like the proto-industrial world of like Nitzer Ebb and et cetera, with like. But I come from my upbringing is in hardcore punk and oi, and D-beat and that world of things, and so when I put pen to paper, it didn't really turn out quite as sort of synthy and new wavy as I might have thought, and so I'm just happy that people like it. I didn't set out to make a product, I wrote like a record in earnest, and so far it's been significantly more fun to play live.
Oh yeah,
even than just writing it.
I suspect I'm gonna enjoy it like significantly more watching it happen. I reposted a clip of your from you all recently, and it blew me away. The way you two were dancing, it reminded me. I was talking to my cameraman about it on the way here. It had the same intensity that I experienced when I go, like, we play like death metal shows, deathcore and stuff. It had that same intensity, but just a different energy. And I just thought that was so awesome to witness the same dynamics I typically experience in a much more abrasive kind of setting, but with another genre that I'm familiar with. And I thought that was really cool. I was like, they're gonna kick ass live. I can just feel it. If this is what it feels like to watch an Instagram little clip of you all, like I can only imagine what it feels like to witness it, to actually be able to sit there and be on the audience and watch you all do what you do. So,
well, thank you, man. No, I appreciate it. I'm really excited, man. Like I said, like this is a new band. I mean, most of our our run to this point was in quarantine, and I've been playing in bands for a long time, but like this people carrying it all is cool. That means a lot to me. Like the
definitely keeps
like
it going,
this,
right?
It's like
I've never met an artist that doesn't ever like self-doubt themselves like at all, and I feel like knowing people are as invested into it as you are at times, it's really like fuel for the fire, to be honest, and good reminder that what you do extends beyond yourself.
Oh yeah, it's
create art for yourself, but the rest of us that experience it get a lot out of it too. So
definitely, man. Yeah. Like I'm gonna lean back. I feel like I'm on edge a little bit, so I'm gonna get in my
no problem.
I'm gonna get in my relaxation pose.
Yeah, do it.
There we go. This is better, right?
Feel settled in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, feeling like a cozy little guy right now. You feeling cozy?
I feel svelte. I am good. I'm settled.
Are you cozy?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you were interviewing me. You could ask the
it's
questions.
good.
It's just very important for me to know, Carlos, that you're cozy as well.
Yeah. No, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Good.
I appreciate you checking in on my coziness.
Of course, man. Listen, we're all just little guys out here in the cozy little world, and we gotta get our little snugs on. It's.
I'm wondering if I should be asking people that before I interview them. Are you good?
Are you cozy?
Are you settled? You feel good?
These are the essentials of goth living, really. Yeah. I mean, when I was young and getting into punk rock, it was all like, are you feeling angry? Are you feeling? Are you have something to raise your middle finger at? But now, I find as time has gone, slowly but surely, the real heart of the matter is, what is your coziness quotient?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, most definitely.
What I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got like a nice sweater going on,
It's actually nice. It's a little oversized.
It's perfect. Yes.
Good. Yeah.
You look good. Probably cozy as it gets, really, right?
I had one question in particular. I've been listening to I'm glad I started out with the beginning of the discography and going through singles and getting a feel for those first, and then listening to that first EP. I feel like it was a significant jump from those singles and that EP to the new album you just released. And although there are some songs from that from the previous singles, I hate to use the word maturing, but it really feels like there's more intention behind it. It feels like things are layered more than they were in the past, and even just added elements. I think I heard a little, different, like, I don't know, the guitar is a little more jangly on some parts and stuff. And I was curious to know, like, what if there was maybe a switch of mindset as far as like songwriting goes from the older stuff that you released to something as significant as putting out an album like you did recently.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote the EP is it's an intro, and then two songs, and then or three songs, and then two like repurposed covers. And for me, like, that was more of like a reference, right?
Okay,
like, so there's
yeah.
like a Partisans song, which is like and then there's a Bauhaus song, right? And so like, that was more just like getting it out, getting my feet wet and what we were doing. And the LP was more intentioned. I think it's a fair assessment, and I means a lot that you noticed. Like,
It's translating. Yeah,
there's I mean, I know, at the risk of sounding self-involved, like, most people aren't writing. I mean, personally, like, I don't write goth music from a place of steady happiness.
Yeah.
Like, my life is admittedly amazing, right? I happily married, good community and good friends, but there's an anguish, right? And I really set out with the LP to be intentioned with trying to translate that.
Oh, amazing!
And because I don't think people mourn quite enough. It's a cold world out there.
Almost like we don't have time to acknowledge it, really.
Yeah, being caught up in survival in itself is something to mourn. I mean, even it's I don't know if you've ever spent time with other human beings, but
a little bit. Try not to.
Every so often, you might. I just
keep running into them.
I know you weren't necessarily asking about the lyrical content, but I found that I tried new things in the studio, but it was mostly just a matter of, I'm not a punk rock teenager anymore.
Yeah.
Now I'm there's a matter of a maturity, and I think it's a responsibility. For people to acknowledge the anguish of living in a fallen world.
I love the way you describe that. Yeah, no, I'm definitely of that mindset as well. And a lot of what I'm doing is attempting to find ways to maneuver through that. Like doing this, to create instead of focusing on the stagnation and create new things. Create art. And communities like this are such like the lifeblood of like this at least for me, in this state, I've been trying to find little communities like this because that's where art and life is actually happening. You know what I mean? So many other people, like you mentioned, are just life is happening so fast. There's so much to keep track of. It's hard to get your bearings at all. I'm glad that you took a moment to kind of really figure out what it is you're experiencing and feeling, and intentionally trying to translate that rather than rehashing themes that you've gone over as a teenager and stuff like that. Because things change a little bit. And values change, and yeah.
No, it's true, man. And like, the thing is, like, the truth is that like not everybody is going to have time to acknowledge what we think of in the Western world as a secondary motive of existence, which is acknowledging the like processing.
Yeah.
Like it
feels like a privilege, really. I feel like as an artist,
that's what I'm saying. Is it seems
art.
It's like, and when we think of privileges, we think of secondary things, maybe even less important.
Yeah.
I'm sure I think it's a universal truth, but I find it particularly, growing up in I'm from the New York area, and like there's this very New York thing that like if you talk to any New York parents, the steps between like not becoming a lawyer and being homeless is one step, like in their mind.
Yeah.
Like at any given moment, you're in their mind, you're just gonna like die on the street.
Yeah. So you're just gonna fail. You're
Like,
just gonna,
like I don't think they like
Yeah.
want or think that's gonna happen, but like, but like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of steps between here and there. But like when you're living in that kind of bustle, you know, and like,
Yeah.
you know, people often think it's their maybe even being silly, but you know, while not everybody needs to or can or should,
Mhm.
you know, translate art into a living. That's sort of the my experience, at least, the function.
Oh yeah.
You know, like there are records that got me through
Totally. I mean, that's why I'm
every
doing what I
season
do.
of my life.
Yeah.
And so like you know, it matters to me to create a space for people to be upset,
Yeah.
like, and not just
And in a safe way, to be honest, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's rather than express it in more, you know, detrimental ways, being able to kind of, you know, hash it out here with friends and in a space where, you know, nothing too bad's going to happen. There's a little bit of, you know, danger there always. That's what makes it fun. But,
Absolutely.
but for the most part, you know, a safe space to express yourself, you know?
Absolutely, man. And I it means a lot that you picked up on that too, man. And I can tell like you're obviously an artist yourself. And I mean, I people make music and art for all sorts of reasons, and I think all of them are cool, man. I got no problem with that. Frankly, I don't even have an issue with people making art to like meet
commercial product
girls
or
or
what?
money
Yeah.
or something.
Oh,
That's not my personal motive,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like
Yeah.
I don't even think that's an issue.
Uh-huh.
I just like, for me, this is very much a matter of allowing my life to be poured out as a product.
What is life like out on the road? Because I again, I'm a little, you know, shocked that you mentioned taking a few weeks off from that last tour that I, you know, missed you on, and even after this tour, you're going to get about a month off. And what is that like living that much on the road and experiencing all these different, you know, communities and whatnot? And
Well, I mean, I would love to hear Narel's perspective as well. I can personally sum it up actually really well from the last tour. And we did a 2-week East Coast in March. That was really awesome. About 3 days into the tour, I got a phone call that like a very important mentor in my life had quickly and suddenly passed.
man.
And like I was on tour. Like, I mean, this was like this is like a familial person who was pretty much responsible for getting me into music and art. You know,
wow.
He was closer to me in many ways than even my parents. You know, like and he that meant that I had to mourn in a room of strangers for the next 2 weeks, right? And I think that's a really good summation of what it is to play in this band. Is that significant life events take a back seat to what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, I will put it this way: if I wasn't touring with my wife, I wouldn't be able to do this, right? So like there was, if we were not able to do this together, I would be left with a choice that I'm not going to make, which is between my family and the road. But because of that, my family is now on the road.
I was just about to mention that when you were saying that, like you're essentially grieving with a room of strangers, it just immediately was like, well, how familial is that? You know what I mean? Where you're not only including us in this cool art project that, you know, you all created, but little did these people realize they're actually able to share in a moment of grief with you as well and help you process that, and, you know, and be in the same room with you through that. That's I think that's a whole nother like layer of community that we don't really think of necessarily when you're thinking about just going out to a show or you know, just you know, listening to your favorite bands, you know, whatever. So
and all of it's valid, man. You know,
totally.
I like, honestly, dude, going out to have a good time and listen to music is as legitimate as, you know, wearing your funeral dress to the gig to grieve whatever it is that's going on in your life. They're all equal to me, and I support all of it. It just means a lot to me, like, to be able to be that kind of vulnerable. I mean, these songs are already very grief oriented. I mean, all of it. I haven't written a lot of goth music about my sunniest days, you know. And so it's
pretty challenging to write about happy stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I've tried. You know, my stuff comes out super poppy when I try to like switch up themes and stuff like that, and it just doesn't seem as much of that, you know, that deep well of you know, emotion that you can draw on when you're.
I mean, yeah, definitely.
Writing about something that's really bothering you, you know.
For sure. No, and so I guess that's a good summation. What's it like being on the road? I mean, for me, it's like I love doing it. I wouldn't be doing it if I wasn't, you know. But it also, it's the sort of thing that, you know, you leave yogurt alone in a room and it develops a culture.
Yeah.
You know, if you leave me alone, I'm gonna write. You know, this is how I do life. and this is how I process. And so, like, I mean, Norel and I have been together for 8 years, and
Hmm.
like she's seen me write a lot of music,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just it doesn't ever seem to be a question. So the fact that people care at all means a lot to me, and maybe they didn't know that they were mourning my mentors with me or anything like
Right.
that, but
Yeah.
it definitely feels like a simultaneously like a cold, like a very vulnerable and scary thing,
Yeah.
but simultaneously it also really warms the pool of what we're doing, because it
Hmm.
means that I got to mourn
Yeah.
in a full room
Yeah.
instead of alone, maybe putting on a comfort film or
And doing what your mentor taught you how to do. You know what I mean? Doing
yeah.
what he arguably would love to be doing. I think that's
Knowing he
there's
would be
definitely a beauty in
proud
that. Yeah.
really, really helped. But yeah, anyway, maybe that's a little wordy, but that's the idea, man. That's what it's like being on the road is major life events happening
Yeah.
often, while you're in transit.
Yeah.
Missing weddings and
Oh wow. Yeah.
funerals,
Mm-hmm.
and this is for those that know me well, it only makes sense.
Hmm.
I've existed in transit for as long as I can remember. I don't even mean in touring, just in life.
Yeah.
Never a strong tether. So.
Do you think being an artist has something to do with that? Living in transit, I like that. I like that because I feel like the best artists they're quite mutable. They really do kind of find a way to express whatever it is they are, whatever they bring to the table in any environment. Like you said, leave you here long enough, you're going to start creating. You're going to start making something. Again, I think the best artists are just kind of it could be it's almost effortless. So, it's just something that they it's a part of their being, not so much something they intentionally do. So,
Dude, definitely, man. And I'm like, I don't think I'm like better or worse for that either.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think that makes me like a special person. Like, I don't get accolades for that. And like, the other side of that coin is that, like, I throughout my life, I there's a secondary thing, even to the sort of emotional validation and the grieving that we all, I like to think, should experience.
Mhm.
Is that there's a firmer other side of the coin, which I think is character. And, trials produce character,
Oh,
right?
most definitely.
So the I'm thankful that I am in a place in life, and that Narelle is in a place in life, where we can do this, and it's not a risk to the important things.
I think art is the greatest lesson I've learned with art is how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think what you
Sure,
described
yeah.
is that friction that, although we all do our best to avoid it, creates incredibly beautiful things when you actually work with it, let it flow through you rather than, trying to reject it or constantly avoid it. I think your art is a tremendous example of that, of the beauty of friction, for to call it a nice word. I don't want to say something as dramatic as suffering or whatever, but the friction in our lives really does, can create incredibly beautiful things. And
I
a lot of my
absolutely
own
agree.
artistic journey has been about that. So I'm kind of comforted hearing that another artist speak to the same speak the same values.
Of course, man. No, it's important. Human suffering is I on a personal level is I think an essential
Yeah,
for character.
yeah,
Um, and might kick myself for admitting this from time to time, but I'm thankful for the trials in my life. They've made me who I
yeah.
am.
It's enormous perspective to be able to get to that place where you can actually say thanks, for take whatever value, extract whatever value you can of the experience, with whatever it is you learned or whatever it is, or created as a result of it,
Definitely, man. I mean, this is what the growth looks like. It's painful.
Hmm. So, what's are you all going to be supporting this album for a good while, or are you guys starting to write ahead of time, or
Yeah, no, I can talk about it.
super
Yeah.
top secret? Yeah, yeah.
It's not. Listen, man. Unless nobody cares about what you do, this is probably not going to be that secret,
All
right?
all right.
And you seem like a nice enough guy. I care about what you do now, so I guess if it's between
Thank
you and
you.
me and my boy over here, I think we're going to be all right. But yes, we're going to be touring on it for a while.
Yeah.
It came out at the end of September, so we're still well in the album cycle.
Yeah.
6 months roughly, right?
Yeah.
But we've begun to trade demos with our producer to be for a new LP.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
and getting it situated with a good solid handful of months of pre-production to just to make sure that it's not a disappointment to us or hopefully anyone else. And yeah, no, we are definitely writing, and I'm super
Is
excited.
that something that takes place on the road as well? Do you mess around with lyrics or melody ideas or anything when you're on the road?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I sort of have to, you know,
okay. In order to make that time frame,
yeah,
right?
well, and the like, a lot of so much of my life is consumed by this.
Mm-hmm.
I have a home life, of course. Like Norella and I, we live a very blessed life, like truly, and but it's so much, and so like for me, it's like when I feel like I've heard the beginning of a song, and it begins to develop, and then round 147 later, it's a song,
Yeah.
and this time, hopefully, that process will both be more refined and quicker because there's a guy I actually have an immense amount of respect for through like a friend of a friend. We ended up connecting, and we like I'm just floored he wanted to work with me at all. But he, in polite terms, he offered, basically like, let me know and we'll cut it up, and I'm going to give you advice if you'll take it. And so I've been handing a lot of the reins of what I thought was a finished product over to the guy, in hopes that he would eviscerate it. And my hopes have been fulfilled.
Wow.
So far.
No, that's an interesting experience as an artist to be able to kind of to share in the songwriting process and to get feedback like that.
And so thankfully so far, it's mostly been a little bit of rearranging and refining, and not so much scrap this thing, it's bad.
Do you feel like you're learning in the process? Like when you get these revision notes, are you is it kind of changing the way you think about it a little bit?
It is, and I super recommend anybody that's writing to get around people who are better at it than them.
Oh yeah.
And like for me, it's like I thought I was pretty good, and I still think I'm pretty good. And this guy, believe it or not, thinks I'm pretty good too. And but I can either spend the next 15 to 20 years more than I already have learning the slow way, or I can allow the natural progression of people who are older and wiser than you.
Right. Well, way to accelerate the process, right?
This is honestly just a rule for life. I mean, like, you could learn things the rough way.
Yeah.
Or you could just take older, wiser people's word for it.
Yeah.
There's
nothing saying you have to do everything they say to do or to a T or whatever, but try it, right?
But I will say that feedback. I highly recommend getting with somebody 5 to 10 years older than you and saying, take the reins of my life.
No, that's powerful.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Like I myself mentor men 5 to 10 years younger than me.
Oh, incredible.
And then that only works because accomplished men 5 to 10 years older than me do it for me. And I have like a singular ambition for these young men under me, and that's that my ceiling would be their floor. And frankly, I think that the tradition of men being good guiding forces in the lives of ones under them is something I think that everyone could benefit from.
I think it's incredible that you're participating in that. I haven't actually, in none of the people I've interviewed has anybody mentioned mentorship at all. So I think the fact that you're, considerate of what's coming after you, these young men that are coming after, are they artists as well? Is that what you're mentoring them
Some.
in? Okay. Yeah.
Just life in general, though, man.
Okay.
And so that's the reason it doesn't come up. Probably, I bet there are some who do, but like, I'm not bringing it up as a bragging point, but more of a general theme of something I think it's important. And I think that call me old school, but I think fathers are important.
Yeah.
I think that and I think that young men having older men to look up to is very important. I think young women having older women to look up to, people that have done life already.
Yeah.
People who have been broken. People who have been broken and put back together, people who have lived life and have the character to show for it.
I don't see it as bragging. I honestly, I'm glad you brought it up because, again, like I said, it's not something that's been brought up on my podcast at all. I haven't heard any other podcast where people are bringing up that issue, especially as artists. So, and I do feel like artists in particular have our own sets of needs when it comes to things like mental health and stuff like that, and self image things and stuff like
Sure,
that. So
yeah.
a lot of us surprisingly succumb to the same issues, and just we don't talk to each other about it, so we don't realize that so many other artists are, you're not as unique as you think you are as far as the issues you're dealing with as an artist and stuff like that. And
Nobody's quite as alone as they think they are.
yes, yeah, thank you
Like,
for putting it much better than I did. Yeah, yeah.
No, dude, you're an eloquent guy. Like, you can speak, and I like, yeah, no, that's a lot of my life, and it's whether it's in art and the stuff I'm doing. That's like, this is just a matter of refinement, right? Like, this is not like this. I'm not like submitting to this dude's leadership as far as my lifestyle and moral
Yeah.
code are going, but he definitely knows what he's doing. I mean, he's got a platinum record under his belt, right? Like, so he knows what he's doing,
Right.
And I'm just, I don't know. Everyone gets this idea in their head that they're going to be able to figure it out and do it better than anyone else. And the likelihood of that happening is 100 to 1.
Yeah.
It's not happening. Actually, I'd say it's like more like 1,000,000 to 1. Chances are you're very stupid, right? and I say that as a guy who myself is very stupid. And when you're young, dumb, and full of ambition, the best thing you can get is people in front of you to be like, oh, yeah, let me help you so you don't spend the next 20 years paying for this.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, let me help you so you don't spend the next 20 minutes paying for it.
Yeah.
So that's my great ambition. And so whether it's people that are help facilitating the refinement of the art in your life, and you know what? On the same token, if you're the kind of person whose main ambition for playing art is pouring your life into just a record and playing it exactly how you wanted to do it and doing it just like that and blowing off steam on the weekends, that's just as cool as anything else.
Yeah.
But for me, I want LP2 to be a hell of a lot better than LP1.
Yeah, yeah.
And I could either spend the next 15 years learning on the road and finding out the hard way that the songs didn't do as well as they could have, or I can listen to someone who's did it,
I can say I've learned a lot from you already. Just this exchange, I'm happy. We actually did get some time to sit down and talk. This went in a direction I didn't anticipate, and that's always exciting for me as well. I'm nervous a little bit about the time, so I want to thank you for sitting down and talking with me, and I want to thank you for not just talking about your songs the whole time. I thought that's what we were going to talk about, was just the EPs and stuff. So. Yeah, thank you. Where can people reach you as far as Instagram or Facebook or anything, any social media you are on?
We technically have a Twitter. We just don't very much use it. Mostly because there are people who wanted to talk to us on there. And that's just we're the only band called Academy Order. And so we have a pretty active Instagram.
Yeah.
And that's a really good way to keep up. We're on streaming everywhere. Death Wish Records has done a very good job, specifically of.
Are you on like an imprint of that? Is that
yeah?
What that is?
So
okay,
Protagonist works exclusively for distribution. With Death Wish. Right now we don't we're not in any other way affiliated, but we've we did our merch through Death Wish HQ.
I just thought it was super cool. I'm hardcore metal, so I saw that and I was like, wow, I didn't expect that. That was cool.
They do an incredible job. Jacob and the people who work for them do an incredible job of having and housing music. And Brendan for Protagonist has done an incredible job of facilitating what we're up to as well. And so that's a good way to do that. But they've been great about distroing is the point. So you can do that, and then I don't know when this will air, but we're going to be on the road until the first week of June.
Okay.
So if the only places that you won't see us this time is the northeast tip of the U.S.
Okay.
That's because we just did that, and the Gulf Coast this time we won't be doing that.
Okay.
But I don't know. Yeah, you can reach us there, or we have an email you can find anywhere else, or Bandcamp. So the social media, just Instagram, and then wherever you stream music.
Awesome. Yeah. And I can attest. I loved everything you've put out so far. Can't wait to witness it, in person. And again, thank you for your time. Thank you for hanging out with me for a little bit. So,
dude, Carlos, really cool. Thank you. You're a very easy guy to talk to, and it means the world that you've taken the time to talk to us.
Thank you. Awesome. I'll see you in there. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Hey, Carlos, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you as well. I appreciate it.